Alright, going to look at inverse functions. So there is some function of x, which is this algebra here. So what this is saying is pick some input, times it by 8, take 3 and divide the result by 2. This negative 1 in the power here is how we write inverse functions. So it's not actually a power, but it's linked to the fact that the opposite of multiplying by something is multiplying by 2 to the negative 1. It's a reciprocal type thing. There's some metaphor going on there, which is not very common in maths and not always very helpful. So this negative 1 isn't a power, although it's written like one, and it is linked to powers in a kind of obtuse sort of way. It just means the inverse. So this is essentially asking us, what did we put in to get 12 out? There's a few ways to do this. I'm going to show you a way that covers all the different things you might be asked in this topic. So the first thing I'm going to find actually just I'm going to find this. What is the inverse of x? What's the general thing that will undo what I started with? To do that, I'm going to put in what's called a dummy variable. So I'm going to pretend that f of x is just y here. So I've got an equation like ones we've seen before. And to find the inverse, that means end up where you started. And we started with x. So that means get x by itself. So we're going to multiply by 2. Take 3 and divide by 8. So now we've got x by itself. Although we haven't got the inverse function, we've got everything we need. We can turn this into the inverse function, which is this. The inverse function of x is this algebra, but done to x. So it's 2x take 3 over 8. Okay, so that is the general inverse function for this function up here. But you weren't asked for the general in this case, you were asked for 12. So if you're asked for this explicitly, do this. If you're asked for this, this isn't the answer to that question, it's just a step on the way, or one step on one of the possible ways. So we're going to use this algebra and we're going to use 12, and it's fairly straightforward. So these two things together, so f inverse of 12 is 2 times 12 take 3 over 8. Great, you couldn't see it. So we've just written that, and we've used this algebra down here with 12 in place of x, because 12 and x are in the same place in the input. So work that out, we get 24 take 3 over 8, so you get 21/8, which, if you like mixed numbers, is 16 and 5/8, and if you care about decimals, crack on with that. That's inverse functions. There's not a huge conceptual thing there. There are some wrinkles as we get some harder functions. It's not always as straightforward as this, but it will be to start with. Have fun with that.